Imagine working 200 feet above frozen ground with no safety equipment. One gust of winter wind, one patch of ice on wooden scaffolding, and you plummet, your body shattering on stone courtyard below, while monks step over your corpse to continue morning prayers. Average construction death rate on Gothic cathedrals? 15 to 20 deaths per 100 workers over project lifetime? In winter? That doubled to 30 to 40 because frozen scaffolding, numb fingers, and hypothermia turned deadly profession into mass grave. Notre Dame de Paris took 107 years to complete, 1,163 to 1,270. Over 3,000 workers died during construction. Westminster Abbey, 84 years, 1,800 plus deaths. Cologne Cathedral, 632 years, 1,248 to 1,008, estimated 12,000 to 15,000 construction deaths. These weren't just buildings, they were blood monuments, built on broken bodies of men who never saw completion. Welcome to Flow of History. Today we're destroying the romantic cathedral myth, those magnificent Gothic structures tourists photograph while sipping lattes, because the reality, you were child laborer starting age 13. Your training was UN paid servitude for 5 to 9 years. Your daily wage? 12 livres yearly, barely enough to avoid starvation. Your master's wage? 50 livres yearly, 4 times yours for pointing while you risked death. And winter made every horror worse. Ready to experience what medieval construction actually meant? When frozen mortar wouldn't set, forcing dangerous shortcuts, when frostbitten fingers couldn't grip tools, when hypothermia killed more workers than falls? Because once you know the truth, you'll never look at cathedrals the same way. You're 13 when parents hand you to master carpenter, not asked, sold. Medieval guilds needed fresh bodies, and families needed one less mouth to feed through brutal winters. The apprenticeship sounds noble, learning skilled craft, earning respectable trade. Reality? UN-paid child labor, disguised as education. The contract is binding, 5 to 9 years of servitude in exchange for bed, board, and clothing. Sounds fair until you realize bed means straw pallet in workshop corner, shared with 3 other apprentices and rats. Board means bread and cheese twice daily, not enough calories for boy doing manual labor 12 to 14 hours daily. Clothing means 1 set of wool garments yearly, already worn thin by previous apprentice who died of PN pneumonia last winter. Winter apprenticeship was nightmare. Medieval workshops had no heating except single brazier near master's workbench. You'd wake with frost on your blanket, breath fogging, fingers so numb you couldn't hold chisel properly. But work continued anyway because construction contracts had penalties for delays. Cathedral chapter would fine master carpenters who fell behind schedule. Guess who paid? Apprentices worked longer hours in winter to compensate for shorter daylight. Your first lessons? Not glamorous carpentry. Hauling timber from forest to workshop. Logs weighing 80 to 100 pounds dragged through snow and ice by 13-year-old bodies. Frostbite was constant threat, exposed skin blackening within minutes. Chronicles from Strasbourg. Cathedral 1277. Document 3 apprentice carpenters losing fingers to frostbite in single winter season. Then came tool training. Not gentle instruction, brutal repetition. Hold plane like this. No, like this. Followed by crack of master's rod across knuckles. You learned through pain because medieval pedagogy believed beating drove lessons deeper. Accounts from York Minster Construction, 1,230 seconds, describe apprentice carpenter receiving 40 lashes for incorrectly measuring timber that resulted in wasted wood. The tools themselves were dangerous. Hand axes that could sever fingers with single slip, adzes curved blades for hollowing timber that regularly embedded in feet when wielders lost grip. 2-man saws requiring perfect coordination. Loss of rhythm meant shredded hands as teeth caught flesh. no safety equipment, no medical care beyond cauterizing wounds with hot iron. Winter made tools more dangerous. Metal became brittle in cold, saw blades snapping mid-cut, sending jagged fragments into faces. Wood became harder, requiring more force to cut, leading to slips and accidents. Frozen fingers couldn't feel when blade was biting too deep until blood appeared on snow. Could your 13-year-old body survive this? Apprentice mortality rate in construction guilds? 1,822% over 5 to 9 year period. That means 1 in 5 died before completing training. Primary causes? Accidents, 45%, disease, 35%, hypothermia, 12%, malnutrition, 8%. Winter deaths were 60% of annual total, despite being only 25% of year. But surviving apprenticeship meant graduating to journeyman status, which sounded like promotion but was actually just different exploitation. Age 18 to 22. You complete apprenticeship, master carpenter grudgingly declares you competent and sends you away. Not because training is complete, because he needs fresh apprentice to exploit, and journeymen demand wages. You're now journeyman. Literally dayman, someone paid by the day with no job security. The journeyman system was scam. You had to travel from town to town gaining experience before any guild of carpenters would grant master status. This sounds educational. Actually, it was wage suppression. By forcing craftsmen to remain journeymen for 5 to 10 more years after apprenticeship, guilds kept skilled workers desperate and cheap. Your first winter as journeyman was brutal. Construction stopped in deep winter. Mortar wouldn't set below freezing, meaning zero income for 3 to 4 months. But you still needed food, shelter, warmth. Cathedral construction sites became ghost towns from December, February. Workers scattered to find any work, mucking stables, hauling freight, even begging. Chronicles from Cologne Cathedral document this cycle. In the year 1261, the master carpenters dismissed their journeymen on St. Martin's Day, November 11th, telling them to return at Easter, late March, early April. Many perished in the interim from cold and hunger, their bodies found in ditches and forests when spring came. When construction resumed, journeymen competed desperately for positions. Master carpenters exploited this by lowering wages each spring. Many men need work, so I'll pay less this year. Daily wage for journeyman carpenter in 1,200, 6 deniers. By 1,250, 4 deniers. Deflation driven by oversupply of desperate workers. But journeymen who secured spring positions faced worse than winter unemployment: scaffolding duty. Somebody had to build the wooden platforms, allowing masons to work at heights. Guess who? The cheapest skilled workers. Journeyman carpenters. Not masters, too valuable. Not apprentices, too unskilled. Journeymen, expendable middle class. Medieval scaffolding was death trap, not modern steel frames with safety rails. Wooden poles lashed together with rope, leaning against walls at precarious angles. Platforms made from planks with no railings. One rotten rope, one splitting plank, one winter gust of wind. You fell 50 to 200 feet to frozen ground below. Statistics from surviving account books paint horrific picture. Westminster Abbey, 1,245 to 1,269, documented 147 scaffolding collapses, resulting in 83 deaths and 64 severe injuries, paralysis, amputations, brain damage. Notre Dame Paris, 1,163 to 1,270, recorded 312 scaffolding incidents, 176 deaths. Cologne Cathedral, 1,248 to 1,880, estimates 400 plus scaffolding deaths in 1st century alone. Winter scaffolding was especially deadly. Morning frost made planks slippery. Ice coating ropes reduced tensile strength by 30-40%, meaning collapses from loads platforms had carried safely in summer. Hypothermia slowed reaction times. Workers couldn't grab support beams fast enough when platforms shifted. The most infamous winter scaffolding disaster, Strasbourg Cathedral, January 1298. Platform supporting 12 journeyman carpenters collapsed during winter morning. All 12 fell 180 feet. Chronicler describes bodies broken like dropped eggs, organs and limbs scattered across frozen courtyard. Cathedral chapter paid families 2 leaves, each 1 month's wages, as compensation, and hired 12 new journeymen within week. Could you survive years of this? Average journeyman career length before death. Permanent disability, 8 to 12 years. That means most journeymen were DEAD or crippled by age 30, never achieving master status. The career path was lie, designed to extract maximum labor from bodies before discarding them. But even journeymen who survived faced ultimate trap, the masterpiece requirement that kept most locked in exploitation forever. To become master, journeymen had to create masterpiece, demonstration of skill so exceptional that Guild of Carpenters, or Masons, would grant master status. Sounds meritocratic. Actually, it was class barrier, designed to keep power concentrated among existing masters. The masterpiece wasn't just good work, it had to be revolutionary, something no master had created before. For carpenter, intricate carved choir stall with joints so precise they appeared seamless. For mason, load-bearing column with decorative elements that strengthened rather than weakened structure. Requirements were deliberately impossible for most journeymen. Why? Because existing masters controlled guild admission. They had zero incentive to approve competitors who'd undercut their prices. Medieval guilds were cartels that fixed wages, controlled markets, and restricted entry. Average approval rate for masterpieces, 8-12%. That means 92% of journeymen were ejected and remained wage laborers forever. Those rare journeymen who achieved master status entered different world. Master mason wages, 50 livres yearly, plus housing, food, wine allowances. Journeyman wages, 12 to 15 livres yearly with no benefits. Masters earned 4 times as much while doing fraction of physical labor. They didn't swing hammers or climb scaffolding, they pointed and collected. Famous master masons became celebrities. Gautier de Varenfroy at Évreux Cathedral 1,253 contract, 50 livre yearly salary plus permission to work on other projects simultaneously. John Deschelles at Notre Dame, 45 livres plus exemption from city taxes. Père de Montreuil, personal architect to King Louis IX, granted noble status, carpenter's son elevated to aristocracy through construction. The Parler family epitomized Master Mason dynasty. Peter Parler, born 1325, became master at Prague Cathedral after Matthias of Arras died. His sons Wenzel and Johannes inherited position. The Parlers controlled Prague's most prestigious construction project for 3 generations, accumulating vast wealth while journeymen who did actual work remained poor. Winter revealed the class divide starkly. Masters retreated to warm homes with heated chambers and glazed windows, luxuries 99% of medieval people never experienced. Journeymen huddled in cheap lodgings, burning furniture for warmth. Laborers froze in stables or died in ditches. But even masters faced one danger, no amount of wealth prevented: heights. Someone had to inspect high vaults, approve stone placement, ensure structural integrity. That meant climbing to top even in winter, and not all masters were careful. The most famous master mason death, William of Sens, Canterbury Cathedral, 1178. While inspecting high vaults in November, early winter, scaffolding collapsed beneath him. He fell 80 feet, surviving initially, but suffering spinal injuries that left him paralyzed from waist down. Unable to work, he died in poverty within 2 years. All accumulated wealth spent on failed medical treatments. The master who'd earned 40 livres yearly ended life as beggar. Other documented master mason winter deaths: Reims Cathedral, 1, 2, 3 fall through weak scaffolding; Amiens Cathedral, 1, 2, 4, 7 struck by falling stone during winter inspection; Cologne Cathedral, 1, 2, 5, 9 hypothermia, after trapped on scaffolding overnight during unexpected snowstorm. Could you climb to master status only to die and fall like common laborer? The title offered wealth, but not safety. And masters weren't even majority of workforce. Stonemasons were the true backbone, and their suffering was legendary. Of 50 to 100 men on typical cathedral construction site, 30 to 60 were stone masons. Not masters, 1 to 2 per site. Not apprentices, 5 to 10. Stone masons. Journeymen and experienced laborers who did actual work. They earned 12 livres yearly. They worked sunrise to sunset. They died regularly. Stonemasonry wasn't elegant craft. It was bloody manual labor. You carved blocks from quarried stone using hammer and chisel. Each strike sent shockwaves through hands, wrists, elbows. After years of this, every mason developed arthritis so severe they couldn't grip tools by age 35. That's when most were retired because crippled hands can't carve stone. No pension. No compensation. Just disposal. Winter masonry was torture.